Today we're making beef stroganoff. Rich, creamy, comforting, and dare I say, a little decadent. But today I'm giving it a lighter touch, a version that still tastes indulgent, but fits beautifully into my healthy living goals. Now I must confess, the knife I'm using here has a rather tragic history. I once rather foolishly used it to separate frozen meat and in the process snapped the tip clean off. My husband wasn't impressed. I believe the words, "You could have punctured the freezer," were said more than once, and yes, he was right. Lesson learned. Still, it lives on. Slightly blunted, slightly wounded, much like me after that confession, but perfectly fine for slicing mushroom. I'm using 1.5 onions here, not for any particular reason, but simply because I had a lonely half sitting in the fridge and I couldn't bring myself to waste it. There's a kind of quiet satisfaction in using what you have. It's practical, yes, but it also feels right, like giving a forgotten ingredient its moment to shine. The garlic is from my garden, harvested months ago, dried and braided with care, and hung up beside my shed. There's something deeply grounding about using ingredients you've nurtured yourself. I give my mushrooms a good wash, but I never peel them. There's flavour in that skin, depth, earthiness, and I rather like the way they look, dark and rustic. Besides, this is home cooking, not a restaurant kitchen. We're not trying to impress anyone. We're just trying to eat well, waste little, and find a bit of joy in every day. I chose these for their bold flavour. They add a savoury roundness that lifts the whole dish without needing cream or butter to do the heavy lifting. As they cook, they release their beautiful, almost forest floor aroma, grounding, hearty, and oh so satisfying. They melt down into the sauce, wrapping the beef in their embrace. This is what I love, creating flavour that feels indulgent but builds from simple, honest ingredients like mushroom, onions, and garlic. Next, we're adding our lean strips of beef. Seared in a hot pan until they blush deeply and just begin to catch at the edges. That scent, rich, savoury, almost primal. It rises like a memory. It fills the kitchen with something warm, familiar, deeply homely. It's the kind of smell that draws people in, not just because it's dinner, but because it feels like comfort is on the way. Once the beef is browned to perfection and set aside to rest, I return to the same pan, not washing it, of course, because every bit of flavour clinging to the bottom is like a secret ingredient. I start with the classics, onion, garlic and mushrooms, earthy, warming and so satisfying as they soften and sizzle in a whisper of olive oil, just a teaspoon because flavour doesn't need excess. The onions, garlic and mushrooms are ready to drink in those savoury, caramelised beef juices left behind. It's one of those small but important things in cooking, not starting over but building layers. The beef flavours seep into the vegetables and suddenly it's not just mushroom and onion anymore. It's the beginning of something slow, rich and utterly irresistible. Now, rather than adding extra fat, and in the spirit of keeping this dish a little lighter, I pour in just a splash of pasta water. It's humble but clever. The heat and steam help soften the onions and mushrooms, while the starch lifts every last bit of beef flavour from the pan, coaxing it into the vegetables like a slow whisper. This is what I love, using what's already there, not just to stretch the ingredients, but to deepen the dish, and all without a single drop more oil. Once the pasta water is in and everything is gently bubbling away, I place the lid on the fry pan, just for a little while. It's not just about speeding things up, It creates a sort of steamy cocoon inside the pan, helping everything soften, melt together and absorb all those savoury pan juices. I needed a little more moisture, so I added a cup of tomato puree, but not just any tomato. This one was tucked away in my freezer months ago, made from fresh tomatoes picked from my garden at the height of summer. They were sweet and sun-warmed when I picked them, and now here they are, still giving, still vibrant. There's something deeply comforting in that, isn't there? Knowing that what you grew with your own hands is now bringing life and richness to a meal shared at home. Let's talk about the beef we're using today. This isn't just any beef, it's homegrown. Together with our son, we're raising heifers on his farm, carefully, respectfully, to feed our entire family. It's a shared effort and a shared reward. This particular cut, it's some of the best we've ever raised. It's flavour-filled, beautifully tender, and filled with meaning. There's something so special about cooking with ingredients that come from your own land, your own family. It's a kind of richness that goes far beyond the taste. And now a generous helping of smoked paprika, 3 heaped tablespoons to be exact. It may sound bold, but this spice is the soul of the dish. I've tripled the ingredients in this dish too because I had beef portions that were frozen and the recipe meant that I had to triple it to the amount of beef that I had stored. It freezes beautifully. That rich smoky sauce only deepens with time and the beef stays tender. I like to portion it out in single serves, something to look forward to on a busy day when you want a home-cooked meal but don't have that time. I've added in 3 cups of my homemade tomato puree. I store them in Ziploc bags, lay them flat on a baking tray and pop them into the freezer. Freezing them flat saves so much space. It's one of my favourite freezer hacks. Then when I need them, like today, I just snap off a bag and it's ready to go. This puree brings such depth to the stroganoff. It's slightly sweet, beautifully rich and full of that summer garden flavour. To round out the flavours, I'm adding in 1 teaspoon of salt and half a teaspoon of white pepper. White pepper gives a softer, more mellow heat than black pepper. It blends beautifully into creamy sauces like this. The salt lifts everything. It brings out the sweetness of the tomato, the richness in the beef, and the warmth of that smoked paprika. It's the little things that make home cooking taste like a proper meal. Now here's my favourite twist on the whole dish. No cream, no sour cream. Instead, I'm folding in a few generous spoonfuls of Greek yoghurt. It gives that same creamy finish we love in a stroganoff, but with far less fat and a boost of protein. Greek yoghurt is thick, tangy, naturally rich in probiotics, which is great for your gut health, and because it's lower in calories and saturated fats, it makes this dish feel indulgent without tipping the scales. The trick is to add it right at the end, once the pan is turned off. That way it doesn't split, it just melts gently into the sauce, giving you that velvety finish that feels like a warm hug. Look at that, silky, fragrant and nourishing. It's one of those meals that you truly don't feel like you're missing out on anything. There's something deeply satisfying about this dish, not just the flavour, but what it represents. So much of what's in this pan has come straight from our hands, our garden or our paddocks. The beef is homegrown, the tomatoes were harvested at their peak and frozen with care, and even the onions and herbs are all from our own soil. Some things, like the pasta or the Greek yoghurt, are store-bought, but that's all part of balance. We use what we grow and we add what we need. When I serve it up, I always make sure to add a handful of fresh salad greens to my plate. It's such a simple thing, but it adds that bit of fibre, freshness and balance that rounds out the meal. I've cooked some shell pasta to go with this, and I'm just adding a small scoop to my plate. It's so satisfying. Those little shells hold onto the sauce so well. It's all about balance. I still want to enjoy the food I love, just in portions that support my goals. And honestly, with all the flavour of this stroganoff and the freshness of the greens, I don't feel like I'm missing a thing. This was absolutely delicious. The beef is tender and rich, the sauce is smoky and creamy, and every bite just feels like proper comfort food. It's hearty, it's nourishing, and it's made with love. And the best part, one serve including the sauce, a small scoop of pasta, and a handful of greens comes in at around 400 calories. That's a beautiful balance for me, rich in flavour, full of goodness, and still aligns with my goals. Well, I'm really happy with how my stroganoff turned out. The one thing you've got to be really careful of when you're on a diet is that you make sure you portion control. The biggest problem in the past is that I've eaten too much. So today I've put 1/3 of my plate with lettuce leaves, which I found as I've begun to diet, I really enjoy. And I still get to have the things that I used to eat on the plate as well, the stroganoff and the pasta. I just have less and I'm just really, really enjoying it. So let's see what we've got. That's it. I'm doing the 1/3 plate rule tonight. And I mix it up. I don't do the same thing every time. I've been using ChatGPT for this diet, which I've just found amazing. Each day I just put in what I've eaten for lunch, work out how many calories it is, then I put down the next meal that I'd like to have, ask it to make sure it tailors it to a certain amount of calories that I have left for the day, or that I have a meal and a small dessert, yogurt or fruit or something like that, and it's just amazing. I do it every day. I know that I haven't gone over my calories, and it just takes some of the thinking out of it, because sometimes dieting can be a lot of a process, and if you can take some of that stress out of it, which ChatGPT has done for me, then it makes it worth it and makes it successful, which is what's happening for me. So follow along. Let's see how we keep going for the next few weeks.